Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for coming back to my vlog. Today I want to talk about how to manage multiple artists on a record label. So if you don't know, I have Storytime Entertainment. It's a record label and kind of creative collective I started quite a few years ago. But we release music probably 2 or 3 times a month from a variety of different artists. And we do the full distribution model, right? So we actually go to Spotify, all those platforms. We also create assets for them. We promote the releases, pre-orders, all that good stuff. So if you are thinking about starting a record label, or maybe you have one and you want to bring on more artists, these are just some tips that I found to be effective for sort of managing the artist process and helping the artist as well as the label have a successful release. So the first thing you're going to probably have to worry about is working with the contracts, right? If you bring on a new artist, there has to be some sort of agreement of like who gets the royalties, how much, what percent does each party get, what does the marketing timeline look like, what are the options for leaving the contract if, either party wants to. So what I'll do is I'll actually put a link to the contract that we use or have used in the past for artists. Super straightforward. I'll put a link to it in the bio if you want to download it and modify it to fit your record label. The most important tip that I have for having a successful contract with an artist is giving them the freedom to choose if they want to continue working with the label. Now, I'm sure we've all heard of horror stories of these massive record labels that screw over artists, don't let them leave the contract, and then end up just pocketing all the royalties because of some stupid little stanza at the bottom of the contract that nobody read. I think that's obviously frightful. I never want to be in that situation. A, because it's just not right and not fair, but B, because it also just ruins the relationship with the artist. And at the end of the day, a partnership between a record label and an artist is exactly that. It's a partnership, right? Both parties want the releases to succeed because both parties have, say and share in its success. So it kind of ruins the relationship if there's ever that kind of drama. So one thing that we always do and that I suggest as a tip is we give both parties, the record label and the artists, the complete freedom to leave the contract at any time. And I always make sure that I walk them through this process when we're getting them onboarded. Right, we show them the contract, we show them that part of the contract that says, hey, if you're ever just like not down for this anymore, you can totally leave. And the way we distribute to platforms actually makes that process super simple. I'll in the next section, we'll talk about that more. But that's my biggest tip, is having that freedom for artists to leave at any time. Okay, so the second tip for managing artists is how do you set up the actual royalty distribution process? A lot of distributors like AWOL, for example, which I use AWOL for my personal music project, it doesn't automate any kind of royalty payouts. So you basically have one part, at least not that I know of, right? So you basically have one entity that collects all the royalties, and then from there, it's up to that entity to distribute the funds amongst the artists that are involved on the record, which is fine if you have a massive, team that is able to go through and provide financial reports for each member of the, contributing parties. But for a smaller label, it's a lot of work and it's not really that effective. I actually use Distrokid for the record label because of the ability to automate payouts. If you've never heard of Distrokid, it's just a distributor for getting your music on Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, all that stuff, and monetizing it. Distrokid's great because it gives you the ability to set percentages of royalties to get automatically paid to artists. So you don't have to do any of that work. They get the report. They're able to see what the split was, what the total was, etc. Super transparent, super easy to set up. The artist does have to have a Distrokid account, and the accounts themselves have a yearly fee, which I don't remember what it is now. I think it's like maybe $20 a year, but they get, they don't take any percentage of royalties, which is what a lot of other distributors do. So it actually ends up paying off, especially for a record label, because we have a lot of streams coming through from various, releases that we have. Now, we actually use Distrokid as a record label account type, so we actually pay for a significantly higher account, which gives us the flexibility to have multiple artists released under the same entity. But Distrokid has the individual level account, which is that $20 a month, where you can sign up and basically, as your own artist, put out as many songs as you want. And collect all the royalties. So I'll put a link to Distrokid, like the sign up page, in the bio if you want to check it out. Full disclosure, if you use that link, you do get a percentage off of your sign up fee, your first year. And we also actually get a small commission off of that too. So if you find this video valuable and you want to sign up, click that link. It helps us out, and you also get a percentage discount. I think it's like 7% off or something, but it helps. So. Okay, and so the last tip I have for managing artists for releasing with your record label is to set up a calendar for tracking the actual marketing timeline. When it comes to a release, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of opportunity for getting exposure and marketing support on the track. So what I do with each artist is I sit down and we create this timeline of saying, on this day we're going to release this, pre-order thing. On this day we're going to release a video about, the release. On this day we're going to actually do the release, where we're going to make it live and where we'll direct everybody to go listen to it. And then on this day we're going to do like this article review from this publisher about it. On this day we're going to do a Instagram takeover or something like that, right? Having that laid out is a really great step to take for kind of understanding the overall picture of how well this release can do. It also just helps you get organized, and it helps the artist understand that you actually care about what you're doing, and that you are taking the time to really think through this process so that it's successful for everybody. So for that, just a calendar. What I like to do is I actually have this own calendar system that I've built that I use for a variety of projects, but it's really as simple as just a line by line, date, where you can say, on this day we're going to do this day we're going to do that, this day we're going to do this, and then just making sure the artist is on board. So if you need to have their involvement, like if you need them to create a video of them talking about the release, like in a very intimate setting, you can let them know ahead of time so that they can say, okay, I'll have it to you by this deadline. So that helps a lot. And then in that calendar timeline too, it's important to have deadlines. So for example, if you're going to be distributing through Spotify or through Distrokid, you should know that it takes at least 5 to 7 business days to have your release actually published by the date that you want it to be released. So, you can't upload the song and the artwork and stuff the day before it's intended to be released, because it's not going to be ready in time. So when you have a calendar, making sure you have that deadline set. One thing I always make sure it's at least a week and a half. Like, it's the very latest that I'll upload an asset to be released from an artist, because otherwise we risk the music not being ready in time. And if we go all in on this pre-order stuff, it's coming on this day, announcement, and it's not ready on that day, it just kind of looks bad, and it looks bad on the label, and the artist then has to, retract their statement. It just gets complicated, right? So use a calendar, make sure you set some deadlines, and just stick to them. So yeah, guys, that's just a few things that I think are very important to managing artists on a record label and having successful releases. There's obviously a lot more that goes into it, and depending on your genre that you have for your label, it could also vary on how you approach artists. If you have any questions, definitely let me know below. I will be sure to respond. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the content, please subscribe. And I'll be putting out these videos more frequently. If you have any questions, again, comments below, or hit me up on Twitter. I'll put that link below as well. If you want to check out Storytime, the record label, we release primarily electronic music. I'll put a link to that below as well. Thank you guys so much. Peace.